Hello, everyone. Happy spring. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to everyone that has joined us before and to all of the new people that have also joined us today. It's wonderful to see some new faces and old friends. On behalf of the National Endowment for the Arts and BAVC Media, I'm here to officially welcome you to the start of this quarterly field meeting for the Independent Film and Media Arts Group, which we also refer to the acronym of IMAG. My name is Paula Smith-Aragoni, and I am the Executive Director of BAVC Media. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a white woman with light brown, straight hair, wearing glasses and a blue jacket. As a reminder, and for those of you who are new to the group, IMAG is part of the Independent Film and Media Arts Field Building Initiative, which is a collaboration between the National Endowment for the Arts, BAVC Media, and all of us here. We really see this initiative as a way to bring together the vast network of networks across the field and to promote regional activity focused on strengthening communities and advancing equity and career sustainability for individuals working in the field of media and filmmaking. The work of IMAG is critically important at this juncture in our history as independent media, artists and media organizations, which is why we are recording this meeting, which will be archived on the IMAG website. Our theme today is connecting the dots, communicating impact of the field within and beyond. Today's presenters will share about a groundbreaking new network in our field that centers leaders of color, BIPOC organizations, and stories as part of a movement to reframe the future of independent media making and other perspectives from two inspiring leaders about how they think, strategize, and communicate about their organization's impact. Within our own projects, organizations in the field, we intrinsically know that our work matters and how media is a multidisciplinary practice that influences civic discourse, family dinners, policy, and private investment in communities near and far, including places where there may not be a local theater company or a museum. People can access film, podcasts, interactive games, and so much more. As independent media continues to adapt, adapting is what we're really good at, in the shadow of corporate mergers, layoffs, streaming dominance, and fights for fair labor practices, and the ongoing struggles that many of our organizations face to financially keep our doors open, it's more important than ever to make our case, to educate our constituents, including policymakers and funders, about exactly who is developing all of these amazing artists that are coming out into the world. Who exactly is training young people to become 21st century media literate and highly skilled to have vibrant careers? And who exactly is helping everyday people, your teenage kid, your auntie, your neighbor, the folks across town, to understand and participate in complex issues? We hope that today will spark new ideas for communicating about why our work matters and how we can individually and collectively foster more awareness and support. For those of you who would like to review today's agenda and lineup of presenters, we will share a link in the chat. This agenda includes the time markers for each session alongside the presenters and an overview of the day. Before we get into the two sessions, I'm going to pass the mic over to my colleague, Brittany Rayome, who is the Associate Director at BAVC Media, for some housekeeping and some general information about the meeting. And then we're going to turn to my colleague, Dawn Valadez, also at BAVC Media, with a special tribute. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that intro, Paula, and thank you, Avril, for sharing the slides. My name is Brittany Rayome. I am a light-skinned blonde woman in a green dress with a rainbow background featuring the BAVC Media logo. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm coming to you from Chinook Land in Portland, Oregon. And yes, I work for BAVC Media. Thank you all for being here. Please take a moment, add your full name, your pronouns, and maybe what organization you're coming from to your name in Zoom. Go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Please share your name, your organization, your location, and a land acknowledgement, including land back actions in your region if you know them or have them. Please continue to use the chat throughout the day to engage with your fellow community members, and you can use the Q&A functions at the bottom of the screen to directly propose questions for the panelists, moderators, and even the hosts. We appreciate your presence here today. Go ahead and do the next slide. Please take care of yourself and take breaks as needed. This meeting is being recorded, so you can watch or listen again in the future. We'll also have a transcript if that is useful to you. Please keep your camera on as much as you're able and feel comfortable with. It's really fun to see who's in this meeting and engage in that way. While this is a 2-hour meeting, it will go quite fast and we'll need to stay on schedule. So we'll gently let people know when their time is up. Please have grace with yourself and others. We're human, we make mistakes, it's normal. And we do have a little extra time in our open mic at the end of the session. So if you have an announcement, we might have time for you. Just keep that 1 minute or less announcement in your back pocket and let us know down the line. And I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic to my colleague, Dawn Valadez, who is the Director of Artist Development and Youth at BAVC Media. And she is going to, well, she'll tell you what she's going to do.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, my name is Dawn Valadez. I'm a light-skinned Chicana with silver hair and wearing a black shirt and some golden wing earrings and a BAVC Media background. This morning, I'm going to do this, holding my emotions as well as I possibly can, but with a open heart. We know in the last month in April, many leaders, people, friends, family members may have passed away. I know the great Reverend Cecil Williams passed away of Glide Memorial Church. In addition, my dear friend and mentor and film media leader Lourdes Portillo passed away on April 20th, 2024. She's 80 years old. For some of you, she's a familiar face. This is a picture of her with Mani Fata, who's the head of SF Film Commission at a celebration of women where we gave her a trailblazing award because she was a trailblazing documentary filmmaker. Her work spanned over 3 decades at least, if not longer than that. And I was introduced to her work when I was a young college student at UC Santa Cruz in 1985 with her film Las Madres, The Mothers of Plaza de Mayo, which documented in a very incredible, tender way the disappearances of people in Argentina and the way in which the Argentinian government was denying that they and others were complicit in the murder of people. And it was mothers who came forward to demand justice for their children. Her work demonstrated to me that a Chicana she was born in Chihuahua and grew up in Los Angeles. I also grew up in Los Angeles. My family's from Guanajuato. That there was a queer lesbian Chicana who was making powerful films during a time when there were people who looked like us, our families, were not represented in the media, let alone being directors of films. Other films, we have some links we'll put in the chat for you. So if you would like to learn more about her, there's a couple of really beautiful obituaries, one done by the San Francisco Chronicle, another by Cinema Tropical. And also, please just go check out her website as well. Some of her other films that have really influenced people are La Ofrenda, which talks about the Day of the Dead. It was probably the first introduction of the Day of the Dead for many people in the United States. Corpus, A Home for Selena, which shared a beautiful story of Selena and her murder And then a film that is impacting me very personally, because I'm working on a film about femicide right now in Mexico called Señorita Extraviada, which talked about the missing women of Juarez. So maybe a moment of silence. Thank you. I'm grateful to her for her work. And now I have the privilege of passing the mic to India King Robbins of Novak from New Orleans and Baton Rouge, who's an amazing leader who will help us see our opening remarks. Thank you so much, India.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Ashe to our ancestors. My name is India King Robbins. I'm the Executive Director of New Orleans Video Access Center. I use she, her pronouns. I identify as a Black woman. I have kinky, coily twists with red lipstick and a white shirt on today. At Novak, we believe that storytellers empower communities. So we seek to empower storytellers. We know that independent filmmakers help to shape our society by providing authentic and vulnerable films on diverse aspects of human life. And although this is highly impactful work, the load can be unsustainable. We must constantly reflect on, dismantle, and change hurdles, systems, and power structures that prevent filmmakers from creating their art that brings people together, art that heals, art that makes space and amplifies voices. Independent filmmakers take care of us when they document, archive, raise awareness, and question society. How can we in turn take care of our filmmakers? Filmmakers have needs. They need access to community, financial resources, education, and opportunity to sustain the work in the industry. So what is your vision for creating sustainable access in the independent film community where you live and work? And what's holding you back? I want you to take a minute to reflect on a few words that you'll see on the screen in a second. Look at these words and ask yourself, what does taking care of and empowering storytellers mean to you? And as you reflect, I'm going to read these words aloud. If you feel compelled after you're done reflecting, please share a comment with 1 to 3 sentences stating your thoughts in the chat. So what does taking care of and empowering filmmakers and storytellers mean to you? Access, amplify, art, community, collective, dismantle, diversity, ecosystem, empower, fund. I'll say that one again. Fund, health, infrastructure, justice. I see joy, protect, reshape, support, voices, and wellness. Feel free to share and read the comments coming in the chat. I see beloved community, unheard voices will finally be heard. Access always, safety, yes. Keep sharing. Today, we will reflect on research and reports that highlight the needs and challenges that many filmmakers endure, with a unique lens on the contributions and challenges faced by filmmakers of color and the organizations developed specifically to support them. So on behalf of NOVAC and the IMAG Advisory Committee, I'm pleased to introduce our first guest speakers, Sahar Driver and Sonia Childress, the co-founders of Color Congress. Their research and their field building is reshaping nonfiction documentary filmmaking by centering BIPOC leaders and organizations. And I personally am grateful for their love and support. There you go, ladies.
Thanks so much, India. It's lovely to see everyone here. My name is Sahar Driver. I am an Iranian American woman with Middle Eastern features, dark hair, wearing all black and clear rimmed glasses, and I'm very happy to be in community with you today. I am co-executive director of Color Congress alongside Sonia Childress, who you will meet momentarily. And while neither of us is a filmmaker, we've been working in the documentary field for the last 15 to 20 years. For the better part, connecting social issue documentaries with movements for social change as impact producers and impact strategists. We've done that both independently and through organizations like Firelight, where Sonia worked for over a decade, and Active Voice, where we both worked, and in partnership with organizations like Doc Society and BAVC, of course, and many more. We are about to watch a video that offers a snapshot of our Color Congress's first in-person gathering of our members during a beautiful couple of days in Atlanta last fall. And then I'll kick it over to Sonia to continue. So if you don't mind starting that video for us, please, Avril.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Atlanta. I'm so happy to see you.
I believe that the work that y'all are doing and the Color Congress is doing is so fundamental. We cannot do it alone. And you all gathering here today is a reflection of the possibility of not doing it alone. We believe in collectivity. We believe in working across difference. It is so very important.
We want to design something that is really radical and aspirational, something more beautiful than just base equity, where we all have the conditions necessary to actually thrive. And then we wanted to tangibly identify the prototypes of that future, also known as like the first steps that we need to get to this world. In other words, this isn't a word, but I like to call it thrival instead of survival.
Imagine what's possible when we organize ourselves as cultural workers and understand our power as change makers, because I think the other thing that the colonial worldview has taught us is that as artists, we're just creators. We don't have the power to change the world, but we actually do, because what speaks to people's heart is culture. And in culture, we change worldview. So how do we become kin? How do we do this work? We're honest about our kinship. We're honest about the ways that we have been ripped apart from one another. We're honest about the ways that our stories have been pushed to the margins, and now we want to bring them together.
We are living in the era of extreme vertical integration. Storytellers are paying for corporations to gain market dominance. I believe that we can and we must build the ecosystem we want from the ground up. It is undeniable. There is space, there is audience, there is revenue. You all are making the space for these films. I believe in the creativity in this room to power collective, structural, and cultural change.
Thanks so much, Avril. And thanks everyone for taking a moment to watch that video. We felt like it's a great introduction to the Color Congress, and it really captures the spirit and energy of our membership and their vision for the future. So my name is Sonia Childress. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a Black woman wearing a black top, glasses, and I have shoulder length locks. I'm coming to you from the ancestral land of the Tongva in Long Beach, California, and I'm near the sacred site of Pavunga, which is a sacred site for the Tongva, the Ahashiman, and the Gabrielino peoples, and it's currently sitting under the Long Beach State campus, which is about a mile from where I am now. And it's so nice to be with you all today and to see so many friends and colleagues in the room. Thank you all for joining us today, and for our hosts for allowing us to speak with you all today. So I'm going to offer a bit of context for those who are less familiar with the Color Congress about the genesis of our organization and the report that we're sharing today. We launched, Sahar and I launched the Color Congress virtually at an event at Sundance 2022. And we launched as a new intermediary in the documentary sector that supports, funds, connects, and champions people of color led and serving documentary organizations across the United States and the US islands. Can we see the next slide? So our data-driven intervention is informed by the two reports that were on that previous slide. The first is Beyond Inclusion, which was research that was commissioned by Chi-Wei Yang at the Ford Foundation and conducted and written by Sahar. And the second report is The Lens Reflected, which was researched by the team at the Center for Media and Social Impact in American University, and I had a hand in helping to craft the contours of that research report. Beyond Inclusion offered the first landscape scan of organizations that support documentarians of color in the United States. And it demonstrated that a subsection of documentary organizations that support these filmmakers and are led by people of color offer invaluable contributions to people of color and to the broader field. But nonetheless, they were chronically underfunded and largely disconnected from one another. And that's what Sahar's 2019 report really surfaced. The Lens Reflected, which you see on the screen now, demonstrated that despite increased audience interest and access to the documentary form in what we call the streaming or the corporate age of documentaries, people of color are still struggling to find a foothold in front of the camera and behind the camera. And so as we launched the organization and began to make the case for a membership organization of people of color led and serving documentary organizations, we fielded lots of questions about the rationale for our intervention. And some of these questions were, how can philanthropy resource many organizations when there isn't enough resources for films that are coming to us with increasingly high budgets? Another question we often heard was, what do these documentary organizations do? Who do they serve? Where do they serve them? What is their relationship to the documentary form? And if they're so vital, when we look at the list of your members, why have we never heard of so many of them? So if we can hit the next slide, please. So 2 years later, after hearing many of those good questions over the last 2 years, we now have a membership of over 100 people of color led and serving documentary organizations based in communities all across the United States and US islands. And we have the data and case studies to really answer those good questions we received. And so we present this report to provide a window into this ecosystem which is really in ascension at a moment in which the documentary field is in deep transition. And one way that folks can view these organizations that we serve is that they really primarily serve as drivers for diversity in the documentary sector. But when we really look at the case studies and the impact they make, we see that these organizations create incredibly necessary hubs for politically engaged nonfiction work to be produced, discussed, and operationalized in service of narrative change and community healing, as India referenced, preservation, empowerment, and community activation. These organizations are a lifeline for the filmmakers they serve. They are a trusted curator for the audiences they nurture, and they're economic and cultural engines for the communities that they hold themselves accountable to. What we learned is that these organizations' gaze is often fixed on those filmmakers and those audiences and those communities they serve, and not on the industry, which is why they often seem to be invisible to the documentary industry, even though they contribute so much to it. So I'm going to pass it over to Sahar to drill down a bit more into details on our membership.
Yes, this is Sahar again. I'm just going to run through some of the data that we collected so that you have a sense of what's in the report, and we'll share the QR code so that you can get access to the report as well. That data that we collected about this ecosystem of organizations is based on member enrollment information, member surveys, our own observations and reflections from 2 years of closed-door meetings, collective decision-making, and a list of field interventions that our members decided to pursue together. So that's what we're drawing all this information from. All of it provided some really clear insight into who our members are, where they work, who they serve, and the interventions that they're making and why those interventions. If you can change the slide, please. Actually, you can keep it there for one. Oh yeah, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. Just over half of our members have national reach, while the rest focus on supporting filmmakers and audiences in regions and localities all across the US and the US islands. And you just saw a map of that a moment ago. If you go to the next slide, please. Of course, there's a density of organizations in the West Coast with a concentration in Los Angeles, but we also have a lot of organizations all across the state and outside of major media centers, actually, as far north as Washington and as far west as Colorado. Next slide. We have a density of organizations on the East Coast, as you would expect, with a concentration in New York City, of course, but also all across the state and New England. Next slide. We have members throughout the Southeast, including in Arkansas, Louisiana, North Carolina, and Georgia. Next slide. We have members all across Texas. Next slide. We have members in the Midwest with a density in and around Chicago. I'm hoping that you all across the country are starting to recognize some of these logos. Next slide. We have members in the Caribbean with a density in Puerto Rico. Next slide. And we have members in the Pacific Islands serving the Hawaiian Islands, actually, Guam, and the Northern Mariana Islands. So we're happy about that. If you go to the next slide. We have just over half of our membership serves multiple identity communities, not exclusive to any single one, while the rest have a particular focus on specific communities. The demographics that are most served by the identity-specific organizations in our membership serve Black, African, and African-American people, followed by Latine folks. But other identities supported by our member organizations also include Indigenous, Pacific Islander, Asian, Arab, Middle Eastern identities, but also people who identify as Caribbean, as women, as non-binary, as queer, undocumented, Muslim, and disabled. In other words, our members have their hands on all major racial and ethnic identities and many more. Next slide. About what this graphic is illustrating is that about a third of our members are artist support organizations. A third of them focus on disseminating work and their audience facing. And then another third are a mix of different kinds of organizations, such as collectives and networks, organizations that are focused on funding or that are working to transform the documentary field in one way or another. You can go to the, actually not yet, not quite yet. The oldest organization in our membership is about 50 years old. So been around a super long time, some of these. And the newest organization is just 1 year old. And I should mention that the largest percentage of new organizations cropped up in about the 2010s. Next slide. So the organizations in our membership were largely founded by people who identify as filmmakers themselves. And many of these organizations are still founder-led. This 94% number is the number of founders who self-identify as filmmakers. In other words, these organizations are helmed by people who understand the documentary field and created the intervention that they themselves needed. They're passionate people who are committed to the communities that they serve. And while they're not resourced well for their peers and for the folks that they serve, these organizations are foundational. As an aside, most of these founders self-identify as women. If you go to the next slide, I'll present one. Many of you, or at least some of you, I hope, are familiar with Yvonne Welbin, a great in our field. Yvonne is a veteran. She chronicled the history of African-American lesbian media makers in the US in her 2003 documentary, Sisters in Cinema. Then she wrote a book on the topic in 2018. And soon she's going to break ground, or actually she just broke ground on her new media arts center in the South Side of Chicago to support even more media makers of color as one part of her 27-year-old organization by the same name. The organizations and leaders who help, the leaders who helm these organizations that make up our ecosystem are just like Yvonne. They're world builders, they're organizers, they're field leaders, and filmmakers who essentially blaze a path for others like them. And the work they do is really essential to the communities that they serve. Next slide, please. But the work that they do has largely not been visible to the broader field beyond the communities that they serve, or they've been deemed too discreet and therefore haven't been valued to the same degree. And as a result, this ecosystem is very, very underfunded. A quarter of our members operate with a budget that is less than $50,000 a year. So it's no surprise that survey responses showed that 17% of our members reported no full-time or even part-time paid staff. Just let that sink in for a second. In other words, for the better part of our membership, any resources that come into the organization gets funneled right back out to their communities through programs and offerings. Many organizations in our membership are fiscally sponsored, and the data is even more striking for them. 75% of fiscally sponsored organizations in our membership have 0 paid full-time staff. Again, this not only speaks to the commitment of these founder leaders and their organizations to the communities that they serve, but it also underscores their resourcefulness and also their uncompensated field building work. These are some of the most committed people in our field who deeply care about documentary, deeply care about uplifting stories by and for people of color, and yet, and despite the underinvestment that they face, they are having a pretty significant collective impact. And if you go to the next slide, I'll explain. Based on their responses to our annual survey last year, which 63% of our members responded to, we estimate that our members collectively served over 15,000 documentary filmmakers. In fact, we estimate that filmmakers of color will go through one or more of these organizations at some point in their careers. They collectively served over 10,000 documentary film professionals, and by that I mean editors, producers, curators, and programmers. And they collectively reached over 20 million audience members. Note that these are just estimates, and they're an extrapolation based on the responses that we received to it from a majority of our members. And that note that the vast majority of the audience reach in particular is due to the collective reach of the 6 public media institutions in our membership. Only 3 of them responded to the survey, and their reach alone amounted to 13 million. So that speaks to how vital public media is to the power and reach of the ecosystem that we serve. We can't underscore that enough. What these numbers also illustrate is, again, the dedication of these leaders to the communities that they serve, who see urgency in this work, and who, despite all odds, despite underinvestment, continue to find ways to support and show up for their respective communities. And now we're excited because as a newly formed ecosystem that is organized and in connection with one another, our members are beginning to articulate what they want to do together. And that was the impetus for us launching as a membership organization. So I'll kick it over to Sonia to share a little bit more about that.
Thank you to the ASL interpreters. That was a lot of data. And you all are doing incredible work. I appreciate you. Thank you. So 2 years ago, our members, when we convened them on a private Zoom to introduce them to one another, we found that many of them did not know one another, despite their shared commitments to the documentary form and to communities of color in the United States. But now, 2 years later, in our 3rd year as an organization, this network of organizations is beginning to build trust with one another, and they're beginning to direct their energies towards solving challenges that they collectively face and create new interventions that would benefit them collectively. So you saw at our national convening in Atlanta last year, our members began to articulate a vision for the future of the documentary field and that is more inclusive of the voices of people of color. And from there, we began to narrow down a slate of ideas that could strengthen our field through their contributions. And so through an 8-month collective decision-making process, they identified and ultimately voted on an intervention to advance together. So if we can see the next slide, our members noted that they wanted to collectively design solutions to a broken distribution system that often fails our filmmakers and communities. They wanted to collectivize essential resources that address needs they share, like marketing needs and organizational accessibility. They also wanted to collectivize fundraising. They want to build greater access to funding for their organizations, and they want to share that access to stabilize and strengthen all of their organizations. They said they wanted to operate a collectively owned retreat space that would allow them to access rest and care, and for the filmmakers they support, creative independence. And they also want to share publicly what they know about the power of the documentary form and the way in which communities of color use that documentary form to move us towards a more just future. So following an 8-month collective decision-making process to determine which of these interventions they want to implement using a field building fund that the Color Congress offers every year to our members decided to work on developing the infrastructure for a collective marketing experiment around films that are supported by this ecosystem. Our members believe that this new marketing experiment will create an important foundation. It will provide audience data and new learnings about effective marketing strategies for documentary film. It will bring us new partnerships and a process to work collectively to address the distribution crisis in our field. Now we want to share a few of our big picture observations and takeaways based on the data that we gathered for this report. This won't be a surprise to the folks in the room, but one observation is that the documentary form is powerful and it holds a unique role for people of color. If we could see the next slide, please. The documentary form, as you know, has a long history as a mouthpiece for social movements. And that's because it plays an important role to correct disinformation and bring people from the margins to the center of historical records. Documentary adds nuance and complexity to the issues that we confront today. And the documentary form continues to be a trusted medium, especially on storytelling about science, about racial justice, and about climate, where it is twice as influential as celebrities and social media, which was a data point found by a recent Reuters study at Oxford. Our membership's work shows that documentary holds a unique power for people of color whose stories have often been the subjects of filmmakers. But our members ensure that people of color are not just on camera, they're behind the camera. And they're telling stories that are focused on issues that affect them personally, and they're telling stories on their own terms. Our members provide political and creative homes for filmmakers of color to think critically about the filmmaking process, about the stories they tell, and about the impact of their work. And they create spaces for communities to watch and engage powerful nonfiction films in ways that broaden their aesthetic tastes, that strengthen their political sensibilities, and that provide bridges to communities who share their challenges and experiences.
Next slide, please. So one of our observations over the last couple of years is the really powerful web of support our members play in supporting filmmakers of color. The organizations that make up this ecosystem are committed to POC authorship and authenticity. They help filmmakers consider the lens through which they tell a story, the aesthetic practices that shape how a story lands. The films that they screen are carefully curated for the audiences of color that they serve so that they can engage with powerful nonfiction work that is resonant with their experiences and intimate with their experiences. In other words, the support that our members offer is attentive to their unique and intersectional experiences of the people that they support. They do so by building trust and relationships with them. Many prioritize transparency, ethics, and accountability to the communities that they serve. And as a result, the relationships that they foster are deep and they're not transactional. When we say that we believe that most filmmakers of color will engage with one or more of our members during their career, we think of a filmmaker, Set Hernandez, who some of you may know. Set was trained in filmmaking by Visual Communications, which is an AAPI media center based in LA. Then they were trained in impact production by Firelight Media, a national filmmaker support organization. They found peers as a member of the Asian American Documentary Network, otherwise known as ADOC. And then they co-founded the Undocumented Filmmakers Collective, which has advocated for undocumented filmmakers and urged artist support organizations to shift their policies that made it impossible for undocumented filmmakers to seek and receive grants. leveraged this network that they built to produce their first feature-length film called Unseen, which introduced new aesthetic and distribution strategies with the help of Access Lab, which is an organization that supports disabled filmmakers of color, so that the film could reach disabled, undocumented audiences that match the film's protagonist. Set's film was just awarded a Truer Than Fiction award, and at the Film Independent Spirit Awards earlier this year. You may have caught that already. But we share that to share that that's the role that this ecosystem plays in the lives of many of the filmmakers of color in our ecosystem. It's a diverse landscape of organizations that provide multiple opportunities for people to get the support they need, depending on their varied and intersecting identities and the challenges that they face. And this slide that you're seeing is full of a bunch of institutions in our field over the years that have created, that are a big part of this web of support, and the leaders that are listed in between them. And it's on their shoulders that we stand as an organization, and of course all the filmmakers that have emerged from this ecosystem. I'll pass it over to you, Sonia.
Thanks. Next slide. So we learned that the people of color documentary ecosystem holds a really expansive definition of film success and film impact. Historically, the notion of documentary impact has really been centered around changing hearts and minds of mainstream audiences. But in the hands of people of color, documentary impact often begins with how film and filmmaking can heal and empower the filmmaker first, then how it can heal and empower and activate our own communities, the people whose stories are being told on camera and the communities that they come from. Documentary filmmaking is about centering people of color, not as subjects of history or victims of powerful forces, but as agents of change in their own lives and in this country. Filmmakers of color often make films about issues they have personal proximity and close relationship to. And so these stories are often deeply personal and complex and nuanced, and they come from experience. So the storytelling is really, it's nuanced for that reason. And it cuts through the kinds of assumptions and misconceptions that can make it into stories made by people who are further from those issues, or made by people who are trying to tell a story and gear that story to mass audiences. And the concept of mass audiences can be a bit amorphous and somewhat fictional, because it is sometimes used essentially to be a story that gatekeepers or tastemakers can respond to, or what they personally like. But storytelling by and for people of color more accurately reflects our lived realities, and it's powerful precisely because it is complex and specific. And that kind of storytelling fosters trust with the audiences, and it resonates both within that filmmaker's community and outside of that filmmaker's community. And so storytelling like this can, and we find it does, contribute to broader narratives that challenge the status quo and that create pathways for the kind of progressive advocacy and policymaking that is a hallmark of impact campaigns. Next slide.
So something else that we've observed and have been noting really is that in our own field of documentary impact, which Sonia and I dedicated many years of our lives to, it's built a methodology around the potential impact of a singular film that raises visibility around an injustice. That's particularly effective when it's directed at discrete challenges that can be solved through discrete actions. But something that we've been noting is that many of the filmmakers of color that we are in touch with often direct their cameras to entrenched and systemic social ills like racism and sexism and homophobia, where a single film isn't adequate, and issues can't be these issues can't be resolved over a 12-month grant period. But a chorus of filmmakers of color telling stories that illustrate power dynamics and that indict power holders can begin to shift understanding and activate communities over time. Our members provide the narrative infrastructure that's needed for that. In other words, whereas impact is typically measured at the level of a single film, we see great narrative power and potential of film at the ecosystem level. These are organizations that essentially serve the bulk of documentarians of color in this country and that nurture audiences of color in this country. And these communities return to them over and over again regularly for film festivals, for community screenings, for workshops and panels. These are durable and trusted relationships that they hold. Color Congress connects these organizations and communities that they serve across identity and across geography. And by doing so, we can build a grassroots narrative infrastructure that speaks effectively to and across communities of color. And because our members are community rooted, and because they work at the level of relationships, we see this as a ground up strategy that is particularly durable. It's a long-term strategy and a grassroots complement to important pop culture strategies that prioritize reach and scale, but require partnerships with players in the industry that can impose curatorial censorship based on commercial interests. But in tandem, these two strategies are much more powerful. So next slide, please. Through relationship building and solidarity work, Color Congress is developing a powerful and interconnected network of POC-led documentary organizations that are capable of organizing for change. Our organizations are better able to learn from one another and gain a deeper understanding of the communities that they serve and the challenges that they face, so that ultimately they can begin to align on narratives that they want to tell collectively. This is the foundation for a truer, more nuanced and intersectional storytelling that is responsive and accountable to all of our communities, and that contributes to narratives that advance society.
So to bring it to a close, we wanted to share a few ways that you, from your organization's position, might be able to support and bolster this ecosystem. Can we see the next slide, please? So we see documentary films as our nation's photo album. They remind us of where we've been. They help us make sense and to document where we are today. And they point us to the future that we want. And that's why we think it's really important that our national photo album reflects the rich diversity of our country. And in order for that to happen, we need to ensure that the organizations that were created to support diverse filmmakers are resourced and supported. So we are encouraging all of our peers across the media ecosystem to consider how you might fund, support, or protect these organizations. And I'll say a bit about each. Funding, it's obvious. The primary obstacle facing our members is a lack of financial stability. And here are the ways that we at Color Congress as an intermediary are addressing this. First, we've provided detailed directory to any funder that's interested in considering organizations in our membership that might be a direct fit with their own funding portfolios. If you are a grant maker in the room and you have capacity, or there's a funder that you know that might be interested in supporting this ecosystem, you can consider asking for access to that member directory, learning a bit more about our members, and considering whether any of them could be direct grantees. Second, we have an organizational grant program that currently provides $90,000 in unrestricted grants to 17 organizations every other year. We plan to continue that resource to reach more organizations that have a proven impact on our field, whether they are members or not. And then third, we have this other fund that we referenced earlier, which is called a field building fund, and it is used to resource our members' collective needs and the bold experimentation and interventions they are developing. Our current funding allows us to allocate $300,000 to that annual fund that our members direct, and we can always use more resources so that the resources available to them match their bold ideas. So the second way to support these organizations is non-monetary support. While our members obviously their organizations need funding, they also need tools, training, and support to succeed. In our first year of our field building fund, we collectively produced a list of resources and technical assistance offerings that would address their organizational needs. And we quickly learned that our members really valued technical assistance and field building grants as much as organizational grants, because cash in hand only goes so far. And so as a trust-based funder, we at Color Congress look for ways that we can support our organizations beyond the check. And we encourage our partners in the media ecosystem to consider creative ways to ensure the longevity of these organizations, their leaders, and this ecosystem. And then lastly, I want to say something about how we might think about protecting this ecosystem. What we found is that our members face the twin threats of a lack of visibility in the media industry and in philanthropy, and a new increased vulnerability due to increased visibility in this present political climate. Part of what makes our members so effective is their specific knowledge of the communities they serve and the specific interventions to the racialized barriers and other challenges the filmmakers they serve face. But it's that specificity and the fact that they're serving a community that's not been well served by mainstream organizations, that is exactly what makes them vulnerable to efforts that are underway across our country to block nonprofit organizations' ability to provide targeted support for historically discriminated identity groups. Our members' work is really effective at ensuring that filmmakers of color have the funding and support they need to tell stories on their own terms and ensure those stories reach audiences of color that their organizations nurture. And despite the fact that all of our 104 member organizations' work is completely legal and very effective, we've seen that there's a well-organized and coordinated movement to upend racial progress in this country. And that movement is really out of step with a vision of democracy and pluralism that movements for racial progress have brought forth. And some of those efforts, just to put a finer point on it, some of those efforts include legal challenges to race-specific programs and nonprofit organizations, efforts to defund race-specific programs and defund public media more broadly, and pressure to eliminate DEI programs and staff at commercial entities, streaming platforms, cable entities, et cetera. And altogether, these efforts can create a chilling effect, which pull resources further from this ecosystem, even though, as I said, all of this work is completely legal. And so at the moment, it's actually fear and not the law that's our greatest threat. And we have to remember that. And we have to remember that all of our identities matter to all of us. And now is a time to really reassert our commitment to ensuring the documentary field is accessible to anyone who wants to enter it and reflective of our rich and diverse nation. And with that, we'll close and are excited to answer any questions that you all may have about anything we've shared over the last 45 minutes.
And I'm not sure how much time we have left, Paula or Dawn or Brittany. Can you all share?
We have 15 minutes left. So If anyone has questions, there's a Q&A function at the bottom, or you can put your questions directly in the chat and we'll try to surface them as quickly as we can.
Super curious if anything surprised you about what we shared. The report and the data that we presented, yeah, surprised you? Was the work of this ecosystem already visible to you all? Okay, I'm seeing some questions here. Can we join the Color Congress if we are not filmmakers and work in film and media as producers and consultants? We are an intermediary that supports organizations, and all of our work and efforts and conversations are focused on organizations specifically. And we never talk about filmmaking. We don't really veer outside of that lane. So our membership is really focused on organizations specifically. If you want to look at what the criteria are to join, you can go. If you go to colorcongress.org and click on the Join tab, you'll see an eligibility an application there that will illustrate what the eligibility criteria are.
Yeah, so just a finer point on that. We don't support filmmakers as a membership organization or production companies. Our intervention is to support the organizations that support those filmmakers. So we're really an intervention around nonprofit organizations that do field building work through their support of filmmakers or bringing their work to audiences. So we don't work with production companies or individual filmmakers. We're working at the level above that. I know there's a question here around funding. Are we funded? Do we have funding to continue this great work? And thanks, Ellen, for asking. We're always looking to grow our funding base and diversify our funding base because we have a big membership and there are lots of needs in our membership. But I do want to take the chance to give a shout out for 3 founding funders who came together for the first time to pool resources to seed this new intervention, and that is the Ford Foundation, MacArthur Foundation, and the Perspective Fund. We have more funders than that now, but we were seeded by those 3 foundations 3 years ago. So shout out to them for seeding something so bold and new.
Thanks for all the bolstering comments, y'all. It's really sweet to see all of this, and we appreciate you for listening. I see this great question here from Jax. Thank you for that, about where else we're sharing this report to amplify the findings. This report, we started articulating it largely for funders and philanthropy. So we've been identifying lots of philanthropic spaces where we can share this, because we are continuing to fundraise to both support our members, but also support the great ideas and ambitions that they have, as Sonia mentioned. We are encouraging funders and donors to, if you are able to fund these organizations directly, bypass us altogether, please do that. We only exist because sometimes funders don't have the capacity to do that. And if that's the case, we're happy to take the money and support them that way, but we really hope that you'll consider funding them directly. We're also, of course, though, Jax, we're also supporting, sharing this out in lots of spaces like this, because we realize that peers in the field, filmmakers are all gaining something from what we've learned and what we're sharing about this ecosystem. So lots of different spaces. If you all have spaces that you think we should be presenting this information at, please let us know. Oh yeah, Jax, we are planning to, we have submitted a proposal to GIA as well.
There's a question around, again, from Ellen. Sounds like this could be great material for a case study by business schools. We love that. and management programs of nonprofit, any journal articles. I just dropped the link for a piece that we wrote for the Stanford Social Innovation Review. We co-authored that with a number of other intermediaries, not in the documentary or media space at all, but that operate the way we do and are trying to both direct new resources to organizations and also challenge and interrupt the way philanthropy moves money more broadly. So if you want to take a look at that, the link is in the chat.
I also just see here that Eleanor Savage from Jerome Foundation is here. I want to big up Jerome, who's also one of our funders and has been a champion of our work from the beginning as well. So hi, Eleanor. Who else? What other questions are here?
It's a good question around film departments at HBCUs. And we haven't been approached by any, but we would certainly consider it. It's a good question, actually. We don't have any academic institutions that have joined membership yet. And I would say that what's interesting, we gather our members every month for 2-hour Zoom like this, except it's closed, heavily facilitated. And I would say for a room of, between 40 and 60 or 70 leaders, all of whom are filmmakers, but who are also running nonprofit organizations to support other people's work. We never talk about film. Meaning we don't show film, we don't talk about films. Very few times are even any documentary films referenced. We're mostly talking to them as people who are thugging it out in these nonprofit streets and trying to raise money for their organizations, trying to keep organizations afloat, trying to balance being filmmakers and creatives themselves with now managing staff and writing grant proposals. And for all of those of you who run organizations like this in the room, you know what that struggle is about. And so we really engage people at the level of nonprofit management and leadership, and how we can do that work better in ways that's sustainable, even though we know we're talking to a room full of artists who would probably rather be making films, but are so dedicated to the filmmakers they serve and to the communities they serve, that they're given their time to build something really beautiful for those filmmakers, and now are connected with other people who are in similar positions. So just again, to give you a picture of the kinds of conversations that we're having every month with these leaders.
I'm gonna ask if our friends at BAVC can share the chat, because there are so many, meaning download it and share it with us, because there are so many really good ideas coming through, and we're really appreciative of you all. I saw one about Stanford Institute for Diversity in the Arts. That was a really great idea, Sandra. Thank you for that. Marjan, love you. Your comment is really sweet. The intangible part that is hard to share on slides is the way this initiative has built a space where members really can exhale and come together in a supportive and generative space without the constant pressure to explain their value and importance. It's the best thing since sliced bread in our field. It's very sweet, and we feel like it's an honor to be able to meet with all of you as well.
There's a good question here from Vera about, do we help support legislation work? And I would say that, we, Color Congress is currently fiscally sponsored. We're in the process of securing our 501c3 status. We don't have plans to be a C4, which would allow us to do full-time advocacy work, legislative advocacy work. So we're not in that space yet. There's a lot you can do even under the C3 status to educate people about their engagement at the policy level. But we don't yet have any plans to do that, but nothing is off the table. I would say that Sahar and I are facilitators of an ecosystem. We're not the leaders of it. So we are led by our members. If our members want to move in that direction, then we'll build the capacity to move in that direction. Good question.
Looks like there's some questions in the Q&A box. Thank you for flagging that, someone. Let's see. Do you think the IMAG community can work with or be supportive of Color Congress's work? From Sapana?
Thanks, Apana. IMAG is already being supportive of our work, creating this space for us and, looking out for opportunities for us to speak at and be present for. In fact, BAVC invited me to be on the advisory council for IMAG. So there are lots of connections happening already that I'm very grateful, that we're both very grateful for.
The next question from Stephanie, do you have any resources or recommendations for organizations that might be experiencing pressures and shifts in funding because of the affirmative action ruling?
We are still, getting our own clarity around this, but one thing that we have been learning and have been hearing over and over again is that the work that this ecosystem does, the work, serving and supporting people of color is not illegal. It's not illegal. It's a legal work. It's crucial work. It's important work. And the affirmative action decision is a very narrow decision that focuses on a very specific criteria, and that should not have a chilling effect. It should not stop us from doing our work at all. So that's really the advice that we've gotten, is to remember that that ruling is very, very narrow, and we should keep that in mind.
Great. And then I have one more in here from Lavender. On the join page, it says that documentary can mean different things. Can you give an example of a non-film related organization that can join?
Yeah, well, we have Arkansas Soul is really focused on Black journalism, Black journalists serving journalism for Black communities in Arkansas, that has a film and storytelling emphasis, but it's not exclusive. And so that's like an example of a place where the documentary definition of documentary is a little bit bleeds into other sectors and other forms of art. So that's what we mean when we say that.
Thank you all for these thoughtful questions and supportive feedback. We really appreciate it. And appreciate having some chance to connect with you all here. It's a really amazing and important group you all have convened.
Thank you. And thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us today. I think we're right at time. So unless you had any other last words, I might hand off the mic. Or I'm multitasking here. Our next presenters, we have some reports from the field that are exciting. I'm going to bring on Lisa Nelson Hayes from StoryCorps. Lisa's the Chief Program Officer there. And she has about a 10-minute presentation for you.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me. I'm not going to make an assumption that everybody is familiar with StoryCorps. In October of 2023, we celebrated our 20th anniversary, and we're an organization, a national organization that collects oral histories all over the country. We have specific initiatives, but we also have opportunities for anybody to come in and share their story with us. We collect stories in various ways. Of course, we have an app, but we also have an Airstream that travels all across the country and collects stories in 10 different cities. We stay in those cities for 4 to 6 weeks. But some of these initiatives, we have military voices, and we're about to launch a new one called Brightness in Black, where we are going across the country to collect stories of Black joy and resilience, focused on the methodology of Trapian Shorter's asset framing, because so often stories that are coming out about communities of color are they're deficit framed as opposed to being asset framed. We really want our communities to start thinking about how they embody and think about their own stories. And we This is a narrative change process for us. We're very excited. It's going to be a highly collaborative process. But what I wanted to come and share with you today for our methodology at StoryCorps has always been about bringing two people together that know each other. They have some type of relationship, and they come and they record and they have an intimate conversation. And right now, StoryCorps has the largest collection of conversations, these recordings at the Library of Congress, because our participants who participate in our process have the opportunity to have their story archived at the Library of Congress. And we have over 630,000 conversations. And to me, it's really the backbone of the organization, because I think it's so important to have this resource where people can go and listen to stories by others, or even go find their own family members and have an opportunity. I dream that, 50 years from now, maybe my great-grandchildren or something can go back and hear a conversation that I've had with my mother. So that's our traditional methodology. But in 2017, we introduced a new methodology to address the polarization that we experience in this country, called One Small Step. And that methodology brings two people together that don't know each other. And that absolutely flipped the organization on its head. We understand the intention of it, but I don't know if we were really prepared internally for what a change that was going to be for us as an organization. And what happens with One Small Step is we solicit people that come from different backgrounds. We have what we've developed, what we call a matchamatron. People fill out a survey, and we try to match those people together to have a conversation to find what they do have in common. It's based on the theory of contact theory, that it's really very difficult to dislike someone that you're having some contact with, and you get to learn and know more about them. And it's been challenging in a lot of different ways, because we find that a lot of folks are like, why do I even want to have a conversation with somebody right now? I don't want this to be an opportunity where you're trying to change my mind, my belief systems, and that's not the intent of the initiative at all. I have what we call an audio card that I can share with you that illustrates what this looks like in real time. And I'd like to share that with you right now. So just give me a moment here, make sure I got it pulled up. I do, and now I can share it with you.
I oftentimes surround myself with people that think like me, that act like me, that have same political beliefs. So sort of stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm really excited, but at the same time, very nervous.
It's nothing to be nervous about. We're just friends. We don't know each other.
We don't know each other, but we will. What made you want to do this interview today?
I see a lot of problems with people being categorized and not totally understood. You're either a Democrat or Republican, you're a blue or red. And I don't believe that. And that's why I love this program and I like to talk to. Deborah, just to put it out there, you are Asian. Mm-hmm. And I know that there's a lot of bias out there. Mm-hmm. And how your culture and ethnicity has affected your points of view on the world.
That's a very good question. Growing up, I despised being different.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It actually wasn't until my first time experiencing discrimination and not understanding how somebody could assume something about me without hearing anything I've ever had to say, that I started to embrace my identity as being somebody who's not Chinese, not American, but being Chinese American.
I applaud you.
Mm-hmm.
People that challenge us or abuse us in some way, that it don't matter. Those that do will accept us for who we are.
I hope that more people have the conversations that we've had today, right? Allowing the other person to speak, because they come from a different background. They come from different beliefs. We all carry our own journey of experiences and have gained wisdom that can be shared.
Yeah. We have to be open to what people are saying and respect it after they say it.
So that's an example of the conversations that we're able to record. Right now, we're in 4 model communities. We call them model communities because we're hoping to scale this initiative nationally, but we have been using these 4 communities as a pilot. So it's Fresno, California. We're also in Richmond, Virginia, Columbus, Georgia, and Wichita, Kansas. And later this summer, we're going to be introducing OSS Connect, where we're able to connect people virtually. People can be matched virtually and sign up and have their own conversations. We're looking for a way to scale this as an opportunity for scale to get more people talking. But what's important about this initiative is that we don't stand alone in this space. There's what they call the bridge building space, and there's a lot of organizations that are doing this work that they call themselves, we call ourselves representing just the exhausted majority that's tired of all the rhetoric of the extreme. And we really know, we understand as an organization that the work really begins with us, regular people, just dismissing that hateful rhetoric and really trying to take advantage of having just honest conversations to find where we can really connect. And so I mentioned that this has been a challenge for the organization because, our content, most people are familiar with our content because of our affiliation with NPR. Our content airs every Friday morning on Morning Edition. And so many people just see us as a very progressive, left-leaning organization. So getting conservatives to trust us, to say, listen, this is about just coming to have a conversation, has tested us. And it's tested us internally because now we find that there's been pushback internally in the organization from other staff members. They're like, why are we even doing this? Not really understanding the intention of it. And so it's really forced us to churn the mirrors on ourselves and start asking ourselves, if we're talking about inclusivity, what does that mean to us as an organization? Are some of our staff members really not coming out front and sharing with us that they might feel differently about some of our own ideas and politics? And so we're now really working internally around how to have courageous conversations. And so we're bringing in some help, an organization called Lion's Story that I've worked with in the past that really helps you to identify and start to develop practices that can work internally so that we can start having these conversations. Because how can we walk the walk forward facing if we're not doing this work internally? And it's been a road, but I'm really proud of how the organization is addressing this, understanding that maybe some of this work should have started much earlier, but nonetheless, really understanding that, it's never too late. It's never too late. And we need to take one small step as an organization as we're asking the American public to do the same thing. So I know I only had 10 minutes. There's a lot there I could share with you. You can always reach out to me at StoryCorps if you'd like to learn more. There's a lot of bridging organizations out there. Braver Angels is one of them. There's a lot of people doing a lot of great work. We just want to be part of the movement as a part of the solution, as opposed to just sitting on the sidelines and doing nothing. So thank you. I really appreciate you guys having me here.
Thank you, Lisa. And our timing got a little funky. We actually do have time for some Q&A if folks had some questions for you.
Actually, Brittany, can we move to our next speaker and then we'll do Q&A right after?
Sure. Do you want everyone at once for Q&A?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll start off with a couple of questions and then we can just open up the Q&A.
Great. Okay, our next speaker is Ashley Adams from the AME Institute. Just one moment. Hi, Ashley. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me? Well, it's wonderful to be here. And I'm a huge fan of StoryCorps. So Lisa, it's really an honor to follow you. That was a great presentation. The work you do is so important. Thanks to BAVC Media and the National Endowment for inviting the AME Institute to be a part of today's conversation.
Ashley, just super quick, we can see your notes too. If you want us to see your presentation, you probably just have to.
Oh, thank you for letting me know that.
Of course.
Let me try that again. Let's see. Can you see just the deck now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. There we go. So before we get started, we're just going to drop a few links in the chat. First, our AME Institute website for those of you who are not familiar with us, and also a link to our YouTube page where you can find recordings of much of our recent live and virtual programming for arts, media, and entertainment educators. In California, AME is an acronym that represents the arts, media, and entertainment industry sector of CTE, Career Technical Education. And our organization was born 10 years ago as a special grant program out of the California Department of Education with the purpose of producing a professional learning conference for high school AME teachers. Back in 2014, we were a single professional learning event for about 200 teachers who were teaching career-focused arts courses, film, design, animation, gaming, technical theater, and music and audio production. What the AME Institute looks like today is quite different. Although we continue to collaborate with the California Department of Education, we're no longer a grant program. We became an independent nonprofit organization in early 2022, and this transition to nonprofit status has allowed us to evolve our mission and message in pretty exciting and powerful ways. Most importantly, it has allowed us to increase impact. We now serve a much broader range of career-focused arts educators across the United States and beyond. The establishment of the AME Institute as an independent organization has also allowed us to diversify our programming. We now run multiple live events, virtual events, and curated PD for districts and schools. We have a website and a newsletter that we connect AME educators to valuable creative industry resources. We offer many different access points for these educators, and many of them are free. And finally, this transition from a CDE grant program to a nonprofit has allowed us to formalize and deepen our partnerships with creative industry. These partners contribute valuable resources and programming. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, as we've been invited to speak today about how we communicate our impact. We began our journey of thinking about how to communicate the value of the work we do to our different constituencies before we became a nonprofit. But this journey began in earnest 2 years ago in 2022. Essentially, we have two very different groups that we need to connect with around impact. That first group is educators and administrators. Teachers are why we exist and who our work serves. We support career-focused arts educators in middle and high schools, community colleges, universities, community-based organizations, and even in a few elementary schools. In our communications with this group, we want to share what they will get out of our resources and events: certifications, software trainings, networking, and inspiration. We want them to know the measurable benefit to them of being a part of the AME Institute community. The second group is industry partners. We couldn't do this work without the support of our industry partners. However, we often work with different departments at various companies. At one company, we may work with the education team. At another, we work with the DEI team or the social impact team or marketing. It's important that we message correctly to each of these different groups to give them the data that they need. In our first year as a nonprofit, It was clear that we needed one media piece that could speak to everyone. I would like to share this short piece as we use it a lot, and I think it does a good job of speaking to our many audiences.
We stand in a moment of cultural change, a time that demands action to increase diversity in the creative industries. In film, television, gaming, music, online media, and all the entertainment consumed, the creative industries must rebuild the career pipeline to increase representation at all levels of production, but they can't do it alone. Our public schools are full of students ready to fill these high-wage, high-need jobs, but they need to be made aware that these careers even exist, and then receive industry-aligned training to prepare them for the modern workplace. Our goal at the AME Institute is to strengthen this pipeline, from public education to the creative industries, ensuring that all students, and particularly those first from opportunity, get the access to high-wage creative industry jobs of today and tomorrow. We do that by empowering educators with the tools and training they need to prepare the next generation of our creative workforce. At our flagship AME Institute, through our monthly virtual learning series, through curated programming for schools and districts, and resources that connect educators and students to the creative industry, AME Institute brings together all of the key stakeholders from the creative industries, K-12, community colleges, and nonprofit organizations in order to build a more diverse and equitable creative workforce of tomorrow. Let's make it happen today. We stand in a moment.
So we are a very young nonprofit, only 2 years. And I was invited today to speak on how we reach different constituencies. And the truth of the matter is that we're still figuring this out. Our board is currently going through a strategic planning process that will culminate in August. And through individual surveys developed for our different constituency groups, we're trying to learn how best to meet their needs and how best to communicate our value and impact. So we have a long way to go, but here are some things that we have learned so far. With our educators, that's teachers and administrators, the impact data that really speaks to them is qualitative. They like to hear from other teachers. They like information that is quick and easy to digest. So we have been using our social media to post testimonials and reels from our events. These show teachers talking about the impact of our work. They are speaking to other teachers firsthand about what they learned at an Adobe, Lucasfilm, or a BAVC workshop, or how AME Alignment, our PD offering for schools, help them develop a stronger AME pathway and connect to industry partners. We have found these testimonials incredibly powerful and valuable for our educator constituency. With our industry partners, you all know that industry partners like impact reports, but we quickly learned that one impact report is not equally valuable to all of our partners. So now we collect specific data sets for certain partners and sometimes even put together individualized impact reports that are just for them. For example, our biggest event of the year, the AME Institute Burbank, welcomed 600 educators to Burbank for creative industry tours, workshops, and panels. We have many different industry partners who sponsor or contribute programming like Adobe, Dolby, Sony Pictures Entertainment, Wacom, Nickelodeon, and Unreal Engine, and many more. For partners where we collaborate with CSR, data around how many Title I schools are represented at our events is valuable. Last year, 67% of the schools represented at the AME Institute Burbank were Title I. Valuable metrics to CSR also include how many students are impacted. So in our calculation, every teacher who attends an AME Institute will in turn support 150 students in 1 year. With 600 and more attendees, that's a lot of students impacted. Visit Burbank is also another one of our supporters, and it's important to them for obvious reasons to know where these educators are coming from. Is it Northern California, Southern California, out of state, which states? So we prepare individualized reports just for them on that. And marketing teams we work with want to know the number of administrators who are attending our events, since those are the decision makers about software and hardware purchases that support their AME programs. Ultimately, we know that all of our partners are crafting a narrative that justifies and explains their support of our organization, and part of our job is to help them tell that story. As I mentioned before, we're still learning a lot about how to communicate impact, and we're excited to get more information from the surveys our board is collecting now. AME Institute needs both our educators and creative industry partners to support us and help us achieve our mission, which is building a strong pipeline from public education to the creative industries. And what we've learned in the last few years as a new nonprofit is that we need to speak their language and work with them to craft that narrative. Again, I'm Ashley Adams, and it's really a great honor to be here with all of you. You all do incredible work. And so it's just a privilege to be here. Thank you for having me. And please reach out with any questions about AME Institute. We'd love to have you all join our community.
Thank you so much, Ashley, and thank you, Lisa. Now, I think, like I said earlier, we're gonna just start with a couple of questions from me to get things going, and would love for you all just to jump in as you want to, and please feel free to just, converse, the two of you too, and we'll all listen. And then we'll open it up to the general audience for questions. So everybody, please, start writing your questions in the chat, and we will collect those in just a few minutes. To get started, I love this focus on data. I know we've got some wonky data people here. Sonia is like the most amazing, data wonky person, I think, that we get to interact with at BAVC, and Sahar's report, like everything. So I just want to say that I love the emphasis that you put on data and also understanding different audiences. Can you get a little bit into the weeds about like, what does that mean functionally for your organizations, and like how you dedicate staff time, your budget, and how much time are you putting into marketing and communications and data collection and management, and any recommendations or systems that you're finding particularly useful as you do this work? And maybe, we'll start with you, Lisa.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, data, right. Okay, because I thought the question was going to my co-facilitator here, but it's for us, it is extremely important, especially around one small step, because it's just such a turn for us, right, of how we do the work. And one of the things our founder, David Isay, is just really committed to is really having the data to back up why this methodology is so important. And so we actually have a brain trust, and we are working with researchers at Yale University around this methodology. And it has really reshaped from the beginning where we started to where we are now, right? And really having us focus on, not only we're so used to wanting to get that conversation and get people engaged in that way, but understanding now that our methodology had to change because we're bringing these two different people together, right, to have these conversations. And so we had to really search and see who else was doing this type of work in research. And we did find folks at Yale that were doing this, and also some folks at Harvard that have been working with us on this. And it has influenced how the data that we've received has influenced us at our roots of how we even train our facilitators to navigate these conversations and how we move forward with our marketing, as well as when people come into the room and how we deal with people in conflict resolution and all of those types of things. And so, as I said in the brief presentation that I had, it has been a comprehensive overhaul internally with one small step. And for a while there, we have been looking at it almost as a whole separate entity, but we have recently really made the decision that it has to be more integrated throughout the entire organization. For a while there, because of the pushback we were getting internally, And some of the feedback that we were getting, that we had some staff members that were just like, I'm not really interested in working on one small step. And at first we were, we were like, because, we're just very people-centered. Oh, I understand. But now, no, because we feel like everybody needs to know how to have these courageous conversations and things like that. So it's taken us in very different places in our surveying methodology. The questions that we're asking and all of that. And we're seeing it really impacting how we're designing this OSS Connect that I mentioned earlier, in how it's, as a forward-facing app, how it's being designed and all that has really been impacted by the research that we've done over the last 5 years. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say it's so helpful to have a really seasoned organization like StoryCorps. And, I think that the recognition that many of us have for what the work is, definitely not one small step, like that's so exciting to hear about. But in general, I think we know. And so I'm sure you do some pretty robust things with data. And also though, Ashley, like for being such a young organization, the AME Institute, how you're thinking about data and prioritizing that, maybe you can speak to it too, because a lot of our organizations in the field were small, and I think it's really hard to find the marketing dollars, the data dollars, like to even have the data sets for somebody to get and see that Yale has a related study that might be applicable. That takes so much time. Can you talk about that, Ashley?
Yeah, we're very, very small staff. And I think, early on, it was just me for quite some time. And then I've been able to bring on 2 amazing people. But we really collectively had to prioritize data and in every aspect of what we do. And so we had conversations as a team early on about the importance of that data collection. And so it really has permeated every aspect of what we do. So for example, we collect registration information on when people are coming to our events. So we're really thoughtful about what information we're collecting. And we're also always in conversation with our partners, because this is such a, professional development is such a human endeavor, and our partners are so important to us. And so in the process of developing programming with them, we're always asking them, what do you need to know? What is the information that's valuable to you? And we try to measure that, whether it's in a post-event survey or however we're collecting. And sometimes, those samples are really small, like maybe only 5 or 10 people respond to the survey. But we know how important it is. And we know that kind of feedback loop for our partners is essential.
Thank you, Ashley. Going back to Lisa with Courageous Conversations, I'm curious about how, if you've gotten any results back or just, any information from constituents, including like policymakers who may not have traditionally been, following StoryCorps and more kind of in the bubble that has traditionally been maybe your work that's been featured on NPR. Are you getting, what kind of interest and feedback are you getting from folks that weren't part of the network before? And do you think that that's actually opening up new doors for the organization in terms of support and funding?
It's sad to say this. We got funding specifically to go to Capitol Hill to collect One Small Step stories. And we had a very challenging time getting the congressmen and senators to participate in the process. We did get some, but it took a lot of work and cajoling, and things like they would participate, but they're like, we're not going to go public with this. Like this story, I don't have to, you guys don't have to post it, do you? They represented what we see across the country, the entrenchment of it. And that was very disheartening to understand that. Some of them, the ones that we got, they were like, I have a friend across the aisle. I know that it will be, a friendly conversation and things like that. But, it was those conversations to me, honestly, felt the most staged, the most, not as authentic as the ones that we find in the field at all. And that was really, really sad. I guess I was a little naive and I thought that people would, want to do it. But the things that we got back is like, I'm not sure if I want my constituents to know that I had this conversation with someone across the aisle. And that was really sad. But what I will say, and I know it, I wish I could name names and things like this, but I will say we have gotten funding from folks, corporate folks that I was very surprised that really do think that this is something that we should be engaged in. And so that made us feel good. But I'm telling you, it's just like, it's obscene for me to have a conversation for someone across the aisle, really to have a conversation about it doesn't have to be about politics. We're not asking you to speak. That's not the mandate. It's just to sit down and have a conversation to find out what you have in common. And as much as we tried to cultivate that, to show examples of it, it was very challenging. We had a little bump where we actually were able to be present and have an activation at their annual baseball game, when they have the Democrats and Republicans, and we were very well received there, but it didn't result in a lot of conversations. So I wish I had a more positive story to tell, but that's been our experience to date. Again, I believe it begins on the ground with regular folks in communities.
Okay, well, maybe we'll check back with you in another year and hopefully it'll be more at that point. But staying with that notion of kind of on the ground, I think another thing that's so powerful about both of your organizations is how you are investing in individual transformation. So in the act of two people being in a room together and sharing, asking questions and that process of storytelling. And then actually your work of working to support educators that are on the ground in classrooms, after school programs, and how that has such a transformative impact for the individuals that they're serving, but then on the whole industry. And you do that so beautifully. And I wonder if you could speak to both of you, maybe starting with you, Ashley, about how you're thinking about how these individual powerful stories then are so transformative and can be, something that lots of different types of people are interested in participating in, that individual to the big.
Yeah, so when we do our teacher testimonials, we found them to be really powerful. Many of our teachers feel like islands wherever they're teaching. They're, maybe they teach an animation program, maybe they're a film teacher, but they don't have colleagues who are doing what they're doing. And AME Institute provides them with a community that feels like coming home. It's not a traditional arts conference. There's a lot of those. The work we do is really about preparing students to enter careers in the creative industries, and it's supporting teachers who are doing that work on the ground. Whether they're, I noticed a question in the chat. We have community-based organizations who send teachers. We have high school teachers, community college teachers, anyone who's really interested in building out that pipeline and supporting students to entering these careers. And I think that the individual stories resonate because a lot of teachers feel the same way. They are, they feel like an island in their district because they're teaching a subject that nobody else teaches. They're doing animation, they're doing game design. And then they see, oh, wow, there are all these other teachers who are congregating at these events, whether they're virtual or live or whatever, who are coming together to connect with industry, to learn from industry, but also connect with one another, to share best practices. And I think that's why those individual stories are so powerful, because other teachers see them and go, that's me. That's exactly what I need. So yeah, I think that individual stories really are powerful for us because it's like every teacher, teachers see that and it's like every teacher, yeah, that's me. I need exactly what that teacher got out of that experience. So.
Thank you.
And
And Lisa, do you have
Ashley,
something to add?
Yeah, I just want to applaud Ashley because I just feel like prior to coming to StoryCorps, I was executive director of Philadelphia Young Playwrights. And what we did is, we work with close to, I guess, 40 teaching artists that go directly into the classroom to teach playwriting as a vehicle to expand students' written literacy, sense of agency, narrative change, all of those things. And what I think is like the work that you're doing, that's the work that the kids want to do. Those are the educators that are really, they are speaking to our kids today, as opposed to the drone. Rah, 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 rah. And so I'm so excited to learn about your organization and the work that you're doing, because I've seen firsthand, how impactful those educators are, because the resources for them are very limited. And so they have to do even more work to make them accessible to our young people. But those are the change makers for our young people. And so I just really want to, again, like I said, I was just totally blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And so thank you so much. And and for us, it's the same thing with the educators and how they utilize our content. And we get significant funding, but it's from the government and things like that. And sometimes it's really challenging to make them understand how our content in the classroom is being used in all types of different ways. And I think that a lot of times, going back to your earlier question, Paula, about legislature and government, I think that sometimes they're really out of touch with what resonates with our educators as well as our students. And I think that these stories that you're talking about, and we really depend very heavily on our educators being our advocates in sharing how they're able to utilize and the depth of how they're able to utilize our content in so many different ways to benefit our young people.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think we can open it up now. I know there are a lot of cool, exciting questions here in the chat. Brittany, do you want to maybe read some of those questions?
Sure, I'll take this question from Jax first. What would be your top recommendation for any organization looking to improve data collection processes or to begin collecting data for the purpose of demonstrating program impact? And are there any specific resources you would recommend with template suggestions for data collection in our field of media, film, arts, storytelling, etc.?
I can jump in. We're super scrappy and really small. So we just use the tools that are available. We use Google surveys. We have what is it? The Survey Monkey. We have a subscription to Survey Monkey, and that's been a good tool to help us craft our surveys and report back the data. They do a nice job of presenting it. In our registration systems, we have questions that folks respond to when they register. Very simple. We are very low tech. We aspire to do better. We aspire to partner with partners who have better tools, but right now that's all we have, but we take full advantage of the tools that we can.
And we use, yes, we do those things also, but I also want to add that I think that we have an advantage as media makers to bring real stories that also resonate and co-sign on the data that we've shared. Last year we went to a CPB, Corporation for Public Broadcasting. They had an event in Atlanta where they had all of their stations attend there, and they asked us for data, and that was really great and all of that. But what resonated the most was we also brought with us 2 people that participated in the One Small Step experience. That's what really got everybody jazzed up. So the data, I believe, kind of went like this, went to them, right? But then they perked up and sat up in their seats when we had real people that it wasn't the conversation that we showed their conversation, but when they actually articulated what their experience about, that's what turned the dial for us. And I think as much as we can bring those first person narratives as much as we can to them, I think that's very important, especially with our young people, having our young people there and representative of the work that they're doing.
Can I just jump into, this is a little bit of a sidebar, but we work with an organization called Civil Economics, and they produced a report in California. I think it came out about 10 years ago called the Otis Report on the Creative Economy. And when you want to talk about storytelling with data, that was really, it gave so many of our arts programs in California, these arts, media, and entertainment programs, it gave them a leg to stand on, and it gave them the data that they could use to tell the story of why these programs are so important. So, you know, when I talk about the tools that we use, we do also borrow other people's, you know, work, like Civil Economics, who's a really important partner for us. They're involved in all of our events because they help us tell the story of the why, what we're doing, who we're serving, and there are jobs out there for these students, and they are good paying jobs, but without the data, that story doesn't resonate. But when you have the data and you can tell that story with data, it's a beautiful thing. So I love having partners like them who can support our work.
Great. I have another question from the Q&A. What strategies have you found work best for outreach and simply getting more eyes on your organization? And that's from Lavender.
Okay, so everybody's gonna be like, well, StoryCorps gets plenty. That's a huge organization. It's a large organization and we have a very small targeted audience. Okay, and our goal is to extend our reach beyond that NPR morning edition audience, and that is very challenging. That is very challenging because we have a tried and true methodology that works. And in order for us to extend that reach and try to cultivate a younger audience, we need to change up. We have to change up what our content looks and sounds like and how we're reaching these folks. Because I'm telling you, I go into too many spaces and people are like, I've never heard of StoryCorps before. I mean, yeah, I've heard of StoryCorps because I listen to NPR and I've known about it and I'm a storyteller. That's my jam. But we're not where we need to be. Right. And so now when I'm looking at this new initiative that I mentioned, Brightness and Black, we're looking to partner with other media outlets, and we're partnering with younger content creators. And so you're going to see different forms of content coming out, also visual, not just audio. So this is going to be a point of tension within the organization. And it's going to stretch us and make us grow. But if we want to remain relevant, this is what we have to do. So, I mean, it's kind of like this double-edged sword. It's like, yeah, you guys got to go, you know, you're established. Yes, but we're established in this niche place, and our niche audience, that public radio outlet audience there, public radio stations are suffering because they haven't done enough to evolve. And so we need to get ahead of that trend right there.
Yeah, I would say our niche is the California audience. We've been a California we started in California, so we have a very strong footing there. There's over 240,000 arts, media, and entertainment students in the state. The Department of Education has been in support of arts, media, and entertainment professional development for a decade now. And when we made the decision to pull away from the Department of Ed in California, become a full nonprofit, we did that with the intention that we had something that we wanted to offer a much broader audience. We know that there are teachers across the country working with students who need industry aligned professional learning that is current and cutting edge. And so, as we're moving beyond California, I've done a lot of work in the last couple of years trying to build relationships with other leadership in other states and talking with them. Career tech ed looks different in every state. It's not even the same acronym. We all use different acronyms. So I've been reaching out to, folks in a lot of different other states, talking about, how can we support your teachers? how can the programming that we do reach your teachers? A lot of what we do is free. All of our virtual programming, we've got, amazing, an Adobe Design Career Series program that we run. We have another series that we run. It's all free. It's all on YouTube. We also have a website and a newsletter that connects teachers to our partners. If you can't come to one of our live events, we understand that. Maybe travel's an issue. Maybe you can't get funding, but there's a lot of different ways that you can plug in. And I think in terms of getting the message out, that's what I've been trying to do, is just to speak to a lot of folks in different states saying, we have a lot of ways we can support your teachers. We want them to be a part of our learning community, and tell us how we can, work with you to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Lisa. One thing that's kind of provocative that I wanted to throw out there, that recently happened in independent media, specifically in the film side of things, was the Sundance Institute recently announced that they put out an RFP to potentially move to another city in 2027. And this is aside from any of the programmatic implications or what Sundance is doing. Sundance is a peer organization in our network. It does so much great work and creates so many important spaces for our media makers. So this has nothing to do with any of that. But something that was interesting on the ground here in the Bay Area, and I know for many regions across the country, was the reaction by public, agencies and other people that have the potential to invest in film, that when this opportunity has presented itself, there's all of a sudden tremendous interest in ways that haven't been there, frankly, for on the ground media arts organizations. From like here in the Bay, like the planning department, the tourism agency, the Office of Economic and Workforce Development, all of a sudden, all ears perked up. And obviously there are some large macro issues at play. But for me, as a leader of a media arts organization, I think it also ties into this conversation around communicating about our impact. It shouldn't take Sundance potentially moving to a new region, to another city, to get people perked up about this work. And so I feel like it's a bit of like a kind of a wake-up call for a lot of us to be like, okay, so how do we, kind of elevate this as a community of organizations, so that we don't need that kind of a big event to occur. So I don't know if anyone wants to respond to that. And also, Sonia, Sahar, if you guys wanted to jump in as well. Just thought it's kind of a provocative kind of question. Okay, well, we can table that, and that will just be Paula's provocative question. But if anyone wants to, talk offline. Oh, sorry, I would love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think part of what we were thinking about as we were building, encouraging organizations to join the Color Congress as members. And we were also seeing organizations and communities that we didn't realize there were so many documentary organizations. These are identity-based film festivals, film collectives, artist support organizations, youth media organizations, run the gamut, impact organizations, narrative change organizations that also, uplift nonfiction work. And what we saw was, Sahar said, lots in the Bay, lots in California, in LA and in the Bay, and lots, of course, in New York. But there was this spread across the country. And I thought, we thought to ourselves, it would be a disservice to look at one of those as being the elite of the POC documentary ecosystem that everyone should invest in. All of these various organizations provide a tapestry that are really important to the communities that they serve, they're place-based or they're identity-based. They have an intervention that's really local and specific. And I think we do ourselves a disservice when we like reify elite entities. There are some organizations, that national organizations that provide so much to so many, but there are also local organizations that provide so much, and it's not wide and shallow, it's deep. And I think philanthropy and also business, the commerce sectors have a hard time understanding how to support a vast network, and they'd rather go with entities that have brand recognition, name recognition. And we couldn't expect all of our 100-member organizations to try to build brand recognition that would compete with the Sundance, nor should they have to. There should be local support for organizations that are locally based. And I think all I'm saying is I think there was an impulse at first to think about how can we pour into these organizations to build them all up so that they have the kind of national visibility that some of the more established organizations have. But in some ways that's sort of unfair, and it's asking them to compete with organizations that are doing different kinds of work, and that also isn't valuing how important they are locally. So I share your frustration. And I share your desire to see local organizations be supported by local business and local philanthropy, and for us all to better support the organizations that are really providing resources to discrete regions and communities, because often that's where people's careers begin. It's within those organizations.
Thank you, Sonia. Did you want to have a final word, Lisa, before we transition?
Yeah, I just think, I'm listening to this and I just, I always come back to organizing and all of this, but everyone's capacity is so at the very edge, right? But we have to really start thinking more holistically of how we organize, like you're saying, we're looking at these two ends. We have things going over here on the West Coast, but we know across the country. And so is there some way to have, I remember when I was working within Philadelphia Young Playwrights that every year I had to fill out this data sheet that Pew sent out so that they could then use all of that data. And they sent that to every organization. You could not get funding if you did not update this data. But you know how do they use that data? They use that data to continually support that region, because now they have everyone's number, all the numbers collectively to show. It's not these individuals. So is there some way that, you know what I mean? I just think that that's really important, that as much as we're about the storytelling and all of that, the bean counters want to know the numbers. They want to know the numbers, and that's what and we have the numbers collectively. We do have the numbers collectively. So I just wanted to add that. But thank you again for having me. This was really great.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Ashley. And now I'm going to pass it back over to Brittany.
Thank you, everyone. I'm just going to move some spotlights here and move us on. It's time, and please keep the conversation going in the chat and take it offline in the listserv or other places. If you feel so inspired, but now it's time for the open mic. So we have a few folks with news to share. For future meetings, if you have an announcement or resource to share, let us know in advance and we'll add you to the queue. Also, it's looking like we're probably going to have enough time for a breakout session from 1:20 to 1:30. No one's let me know in advance that they needed ASL interpretation in the breakout room, but you can still do that now if that's something that you require. And so our first person who's speaking today is speaking to documentality, and let me just pin.
Hi, thank you, Brittany. Hi, everyone. I'm Marjan Safinia. I wear a gajillion different hats. I've encountered you wearing a bunch of them. I'm wearing my D Word hat today. The D Word is a 25-year-old online community, international online community of documentary professionals. And I wanted to let you know that we've been working for the last 18 months, 2 years on a landmark piece of research about the mental health of the documentary field, specifically filmmakers in phase 1. The report is called The Price of Passion. And we have done this work in collaboration with Rebecca Day, a therapist working out of the UK who was a producer and is now a therapist, and Malika Rollins, who was a therapist and is now working in the doc field. We conducted focus groups in the UK, in the US, and in Canada with the funding support of our partners. And it's the first piece of research that really hones in on the mental health impacts of documentary filmmaking specifically. There are other reports that have been done more broadly about film and television. You know, I often say this research shows that water is wet. I think that anyone who is in community with documentary filmmakers knows the true impact of the work on people's mental health. For us at the D Word, it was important because 2 of our members took their own lives as a result of some of these stresses. So, you know, it's more than just kind of moaning in a bar with your friends. It's a serious crisis. And so this is just the first step in kind of water is wetting to show the data that, you know, this is really a problem, and then to invite us as an ecosystem to center the care, not just for participants, which is super important, and that work has started, but also filmmakers. And we hope that in phase 2 of the work, as we grow it, we can also extend the research to film workers inside organizations. I think we all recognize, especially after the last year or 2, that many of our organizations are crumbling internally, and that the same pressures exist for film workers. And I think that's an important piece of the ecosystem. So I wanted to let you know about the event. I'm going to drop it all in the chat, but it's May 17th on Zoom. I'm going to drop links for how to register, and also an outreach toolkit if you would like to share this with your memberships and organizations to let them know about the report. And I think I've taken up my time, but I'm really grateful for you guys giving me the floor for a second. Thank you.
Great. And our next presenter is from the Harlem Film House. CRA, I'm not able to spotlight you until you turn your camera on.
Oh, okay. 1 second. Give me a second. I'm so sorry. I am on my iPad in transit.
It's okay.
And so
it's an annoying feature.
it is annoying. Let's see here.
If you want, I can oh, there you are.
There we go. So sorry about that. Okay. Is that good?
Great. Yes, you're on camera. You're on screen now.
Okay, thank you. My apologies for my summer-like attire. I've been in transit. Hello, everyone. My name is CR Capers. I am the founder and executive director, CEO, whatever you want to call it, the person in service to everyone here at the Harlem Film House, where we focus on access and opportunity for creative entrepreneurs and storytellers around the world. We recently started a new program called Boss Pitch Sessions. And the Boss Pitch Sessions is our immediate answer to a lot of the struggles that independent filmmakers and documentarians go through when they're trying to get their project finished. The program runs on 4 tracks. The first track, or rather the 4th track, is the director track. And that's where we encourage folks to come in with their pitch decks, their reels, and have it reviewed by someone who is actually in the industry now, who is greenlit, who is working, who understands what these studios are looking for and can help guide you to a perfect presentation and or additional resources that they may have to help push your project forward. We have Emmy winner Bobby Yen, and we have Boogie Michael Pinkney, both amazing and accomplished directors in their right. The next track that we have focuses on agencies and agents, casting agents. So this track is open for filmmakers and below the line and above the line who really need, who want representation when it comes to studio. So a lot of us, we know we're independent filmmakers, but we have aspirations to be represented. And we know that these studios do not take kindly to unsolicited materials. And so the agents that the filmmakers are able to pitch to have relationships with all the top streamers, all the top studios. And if they like the work, they will walk it in for you and become your agent and get representation. The next track that we have is the distributors, which is the most important track. So I've gotten distributors on board who are willing to look at people's projects, finished projects, and in certain cases, almost finished, because they provide finishing funds as well. These streamers and distributors are darlings of the film markets. So it's an actual direct way to connect with a sales agent or a film agent and a distributor that has a platform and network that is willing to acquire your work or your filmmaker's work right there on the spot if they like. The last track that we have is also track number 1, is the investor track. And that's where I pulled in some folks who have Google gobs of money and is like, your mission is dope. And yeah, no one ever approaches us and really asks us, we'd love to see it. Which was surprising to me because of all the people that's looking for money, right? So yeah, folks can sign up. They get 10 minutes with these investors. We help them with the entire process. It's an amazing and beautiful community. But what I'm asking from the IMAG group is for community partners. We want to make sure that as many people know about this opportunity as possible. And of course, we will split the revenue with you from that. The first month alone, we've had amazing folks come from all walks of life to pitch their stories among these 4 tracks. And a lot of people got picked up. Sometimes the best opportunities are the lowest hanging fruit. So we ask for your support in this program. I'm gonna put the links in about what the community advisory support is or becoming a community partner. But I would ask for all of your organizations to participate. This is literally, this is some of the solutions that we are all talking about. I'm surprised that we're not overrun. So help us get overrun and help us get these people the help, support, and distribution that they need. One of our investors is like, hey, I got $2 million per project. Come through. Let me see what you got. That's all I have for you guys today. If there's any questions, I'm in the chat. You can also reach me at cr@harlemfilmhouse.org. Again, that's the boss pitch sessions. And I think that's time, right?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ciara.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
And next up, we're going to hear from Jax.
Hey, everyone. On the topic of funding and connecting the dots and ecosystems, I did want to do a quick plug for the NEA Grants for Arts Projects deadline, which is coming up soon on July 11th. Seems far away, but it's actually closer than we think. And that's a grant opportunity that supports programs and initiatives for artists, audiences, communities, and also can support artist support programs, public engagement programs, and services to the field, which includes research. So I put a link in there. There are office hours with staff. So this deadline will have passed by the time we have our next meeting. So just know that it's coming up. We're here and we can help you. And second, we will have staff in attendance at 2 conferences in June. One is the Alliance for Community Media in San Jose, June 25th to 27th. And then we'll also be at the Index, the Independent Film Exhibition Conference in Chicago from the 25th to the 28th. And so we'll have staff there doing meetings and panels. So be sure to be on the lookout and we'd love to see you there. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. And now I'm just going to bring up our last speaker from the Gotham. we go.
Hello, I am from the Gotham. I just want to quickly mention the 2024 Gotham Week Project Market, which is the nation's oldest and largest curated marketplace connecting film and series creators with key industry executives. It's set to run from September 30th through October 4th in Brooklyn. And we are now accepting applications for 3 sections, Spotlight on Documentaries, U.S. Features in Development, and U.S. Shorts to Features. Our regular deadline is in 2 weeks, May 16th, and our members only extended deadline is on May 30th. I will put my email address in the chat. I would love any kind of support, sharing with your community, but also love to connect with everyone. Love to support everyone here as well, to share your programs and events in our newsletters with our community as well. So yeah, so I will love to connect with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think Dawn Valadez is going to quickly close us out, and then we'll rush to a quick little breakout room. No one requested interpretation, so the interpreters will be free to go when I open up the breakout rooms, but take it away, Dawn.
Great. We end at the half hour, so I'll just quickly say thank you so much to all of our incredible guests, to all of our speakers, to just this very dynamic conversation yet again. IMAG is an incredible opportunity and place for all of us to share these conversations, ideas, and we want you to keep them going. I want to thank the organizing committee, the NEA, BAVC team, our advisors. We now have this great new advisory group. Please, we don't have a save the date yet, so keep your eyes out for updates. We'll let you know that as soon as possible. Sign up on our listserv. That's a place where you can continue these kinds of conversations. You can post dates, upcoming dates. It's a link for it is in the chat. This network is for everyone supporting the field and many different roles. So we definitely want to make sure that you share this out with your colleagues and friends. And please just keep these conversations going. And just in part, we stand on the shoulders of giants and ancestors who did this work without this support. And so we're very fortunate to be here together and to give each other this support. So take it away. I think we have a few minutes for a breakout.
Yes, thank you. Thank you everyone for being here. Breakout is optional, and I'm just going to open those rooms now. Have a great Wednesday, everyone.